Hello, writers! Last week, you did a great job telling stories from your life. You chose a special moment and started writing about it. But now, we're going to see that it is important to the reader to see that there is a real person behind those words. Sometimes the voice you use is of a storyteller, while other times it is the voice of a news reporter. Listen carefully to figure out which is which. We're going to start with voice A. Listen carefully. Yesterday, we couldn't go outside, so we stayed inside and listened to a read aloud instead. But we didn't hear much as we were distracted with dragonflies flying around the room. We continued to listen to read aloud. Now let's listen to voice B. Listen up, our teacher said, as she opened the book because of Winn-Dixie and began to read. We were so quiet we could probably have heard ants crawling along the floor. Then our teacher lowered the book. We were about to say, "No, read it." But she was looking at a blur of wings that flew between us. "What was that?" Sam called. "Dragonflies." And soon enough, we saw them. Now 3 dragonflies hovered over our heads. Now we're going to pause the video and think. Take this moment to think. Is voice A a storytelling writer? Is voice B a storytelling or a reporter? What do you think? Pause and take your time. Now that you're back, let's see. In a storytelling voice, in voice B, the teacher said, "Listen up." That sounds more like a storytelling voice. The storyteller let you feel what it was actually like to be there, to be sitting in that actual classroom. And the storyteller gave details of how it all happened. So today's teaching point is writers use a storyteller's voice. They tell stories, not summaries. So today I want to teach you that to make your storytelling voices stronger, you try to make a mental movie of what happened and tell it bit by bit so that your reader can almost see, hear, and feel everything. So I'm going to rehearse with the story that Mora Michel wrote last week. So this was her writing last week. One summer I was in Maitencillo with my family and I wanted to go to a restaurant called Dos Salmones. We sat in that place and ordered our lunch. I asked for a burrito and one of my daughters did too. My dish was delicious. I loved it, but suddenly I saw my daughter shouting. I asked what happened and she said, "Mom, look at my lettuce." It had a worm. Immediately, we called the owner of the restaurant and they said that they were very sorry and that this would never happen again. Now, let's see how I can change it to a more storytelling voice. On red and blue, I wrote all the changes of the first part of this small moment. In my writing, I want the readers to be able to see and hear what happens. Let me think back on the story. See how I'm focusing on the experience? I want to make a movie in my mind of what happened first, then, and next. So let's see. It was a hot summer afternoon in Maitencillo. I was with my family and we wanted to go to a restaurant called Dos Salmones. So then I added, after walking under the heat of the sun, my feet started hurting. But finally, we got to this beautiful and cozy restaurant. We sat in that place, and my daughter said, I am so hungry I could eat everything. It was not easy to decide what to order. There are so many delicious things to eat. I asked for a burrito, and one of my daughters did too. My dish was amazing with mixed flavors of avocado, meat, and spices. Do you see how I'm using my storytelling voice? Using small actions and small details. I'm not just telling what happened, I'm showing it. So remember, as writers, you need to make a movie in your mind, showing and not just telling. So let's take a look at this anchor chart. This will be very helpful for your writing. A storyteller's voice shows, not tells. What you need to do as a storytelling voice? You need to describe actions that took place. You need to use dialogue. Describe what you saw, smelled, tasted, or felt, and describe also images. So from now on, whenever you're writing a story, don't just talk about what happened. Instead, you can say exactly what happened first, then, next, and next. You can add descriptive details and dialogue. Use your storytelling voices. You can do it step by step, and this strategy will help you anytime you want to write stories. So now, what do we need to do? First of all, you're going to reread your stories from last week. Then, you're going to make sure you have shown what is happening. Use a storyteller's voice. The third step would be make as many changes as you want and rewrite it. Maybe some of you want to start a new story instead of rewriting an old one, and that's okay too. So this was your entry from last week. So in case you want to make a new one, you go to a new page or you modify the one from last week. I want to show you this writing checklist that you can use to check your own writing and see with the anchor chart that we saw before if you're really using your storyteller's voice. So this is my checklist. And I have these 4 things that I can add to use my storyteller's voice, showing and not telling. So you're going to think for each of these questions, in which place are you? How well are you doing? Are you not there yet? Are you starting to use it? Yes, I did, or I did great. In case you have a check here in not yet or starting to, try to move it forward. okay? Don't just keep your check over here and say, no, not yet, I'm not using describing actions, and that's it. You need to improve. So for example, I'm going to focus in my actions, in the dialogue, in the senses to describe what we saw, what we said, and we're going to describe the images around the storyteller. So this is an example of what your checklist can look like. Remember to hand it in next Wednesday, June 10th. And once you finish, don't forget to press Enviar tarea. Remember, you can play this video as many times as you need. So now, writers, go and write.